I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I
am California of the past.
Hi, I'm Sharon Tymn, and I have lived in Alameda since I was 3.5 years old. We lived in the Woodstock village by the Alameda Naval Air Station. When my father was transferred to the Alameda Naval Air Station, Woodstock village was being built, and I can remember that my mother had a sister who had a boyfriend who was a contractor, and he said, that housing is built very well, and it's going to be a nice area. We were very proud because we felt that Woodstock was very, very nice, and we thought we were very lucky to be able to be living in those homes. It was a very close community. The community hall is now known as Kitty Campus, but at that time, that's where we had all our doings. We had potluck suppers. We also had movies, and I sold candy at the movies. I also had nursery schools there. Also, I taught Sunday school there because I had a church there too, so they was used for various things. They also had people there that taught us, and being women, we had to learn how to sew and knit. I knitted a sweater, and at 6 years old, I won the grand prize at the hobby show for the sweater I knitted there. And the schools were not quite ready for us during the war. And with this influx of all the people coming here to Alameda, we had at least 40 kids in each class. What I remember mostly about the war is saving scrap metal before Pearl Harbor. And my mother telling me all the scrap metal was being sent to Japan, and that they came back and bombed us in Pearl Harbor with the scrap metal we sent over there. Since we were near the base, we had sirens, and the sirens would come on, and that meant the Japanese were going to come over and bomb us. We had to turn out all the lights in our house. We had to pull down our shades, and then my brother and I would go underneath our beds and hide. I can still remember this being very traumatic, that we really felt that we were indeed in danger. My father was a block warden, and he had quite a bit to say if, in fact, they found out if anyone did not turn out their lights or were not following by the rules, that they would really be in trouble. Then after the war, we did find out that I believe there were submarines really outside the gate here in San Francisco, so it was a possibility that we could have been bombed or been invaded. I also remember the food rationing stamps that we had. We could not buy some of the household goods because that was all being sent over to the troops. And so we were limited to the amount of food we could buy. The butter was all being sent to them. Margarine first came out, and I can still remember the margarine could not be colored yellow because that would be interpreted as butter. We had to mix the color. And so we had big bags, and they had a little button inside, and you press that button and it released the color dye. And so what we do is play catch back and forth, and that would mix our margarine. At that time, people wore nylons, and you could not buy nylons, so they were like very sacred to my mother. And she would actually have this little instrument to mend that run in the nylons. And if you didn't have nylons, you would have to put pancake makeup on your legs, and also you would have to draw a line up the back of their leg with eyebrow pencil because there were seams in the stockings at that time. Also, another thing I really missed during the war was elastic. It would get worn out, and so my memories of pulling the elastic and tying knots in it to make it tighter around me. Just before the war was started, my father had bought a brand new car, but when they found out they couldn't have any gas, we used to have to go on the trains. Those train rides were something to remember, with the porters on the trains and their white gloves and the sleeping compartments and the beds and them ringing bells for dinner and things. And so it's a pleasant memory to think of the trains. Now I'll talk about the relatives in the war and how that had a big impact on me, and how I feel that war is very cruel and sometimes unnecessary, but this war was. My grandmother didn't like uniforms, even the Boy Scouts, because she did not like war or uniforms or anything like that. But my two uncles did go into the Marines. I just thought they looked so nice, and their dress uniforms were very impressive to me. Both of my uncles were in the South Pacific at that time, and my one uncle was a parachuter. My uncle, he also had other memories, souvenirs he brought back that really show how cruel war really is. He would wake up in the middle of the night just screaming sometimes. I can still remember. And if we asked him anything about it, he would say, I can't talk about it. It's just too sad. It was 1945, and I can remember being in my grandmother's room, and we were sitting by the radio, and it came on, and we were so happy to hear that the war had ended and the troops would be coming home. And my father at that time says we had to pack up our bags right away, because he was afraid that all the troops would be coming back from the war and that the trains would be filled and we would not be able to get home. Anyhow, those are my comments about my life in Alameda during the war era. Thank you.